Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're actually going to be tackling the bed themselves. So we've got this one over here that's already completely done, and it's in the right spot. We did all the measurements. I'll leave a link to the video above. But what we're going to do is take out all of the stone that's inside. We want everything to be sitting directly on soil. So we're going to dig all of that out, level it, and get that started. So what we're going to be doing is, the reason we want it to sit directly on soil and not just start adding dirt or adding the soil directly to the stones themselves, is we are going to be using a Hugelkultur method. And that is going to entail putting in a lot of larger to mid-size sticks and branches and logs into the bottom to create a filler up to about 12 to 16, maybe 18 inches. These beds are almost 30 inches tall, so we have a lot of space to fill in, because if we don't and we just add straight soil, that would be a lot of soil, and that would over time would get really compacted. This allows a lot of filler and allows a lot of space for as it breaks down. So let me get into that. So what we're doing is we're adding logs, sticks, and different size stumps to the base of this. That's going to sit directly on the soil. When that sits directly on the soil, it's going to allow all of those good little creatures and critters to come inside and start eating away at the logs and the wood. And that'll cause it all to break down. So a layer on top of that, you're gonna have the smaller twigs, branches, and sticks. And on top of that, you're gonna have leaves and other things that will start to decompose and help that process just further itself. And then we're gonna put a layer of soil, whether it's the old sod soil or the soil that I purchased. We're gonna put that directly on top of that. And then the very top layer, what we're gonna put in is gonna be an amended soil, something that's gonna be very rich in nutrients. And that's where we're gonna do our planting. Now, this process, it just simply means it's a mound process. It's a decomposing or decomposition mound. You're going to put everything in there, and then you're going to allow, over time, that wood and that everything inside there is going to start to decompose and enrich the soil. So now, one of the things I read from the Old Farmer's Almanac is that they showed the breakdown in a series of pictures. I'll put it over here. A series of pictures showing the breakdown process. And what they show is that over a year, you'll see it'll start to break down. Over 2 years, it'll break down even more. And they show that at the 20-year marker, there shouldn't be anything left in there at all. Now, I don't know. I'm not going to go check this after 20 years. I'm hoping these are the only beds I'm going to need, but I don't know what Mother Nature has planned for this, or what the actual breakdown of the pressure treated and the metal is going to be over time. But hypothetically, that over time, as this breaks down, we're going to add more compost to the top and continue to enrich and amend the top layer of soil where we're going to be putting plants into it. So as it sinks, we'll be adding more. So eventually, as it breaks down fully, it should be all this very rich soil that we'll be planting into. So there's a lot of time and effort that's going to be put into this over the years. It's not a quick process. So we do have a lot of work to get started here. I do have a lot of logs I'm going to be adding. Those are brought to me by a friend, Chance, who took down a tree just recently. So he's got some real big ones that I should be able to fit most of the 5 or 6 that he brought me into this one bed. And then I did take down a tree earlier in the year. I'll also link that video up here. And I put that over here. So I will take that down because that has already started to rot. So that'll be a good one. I do have soil, and then I have a couple burn piles right over here. The burn piles aren't necessarily burn piles. They're rubbish piles. I got one here and then one all the way in the back there. And that's not just from me. My neighbor behind me has been cutting buckthorn. So some of that stuff is going to get shredded down into a mulch, or what we're going to do is burn it, or I'm going to use it to fill as that the top layer of the wood, the top bottom layer of the wood, the smaller sticks from there and the twigs and the branches. I'll cut all that down and start layering that right on top of it. And then again, the soil, the leaves, the rubbish from the garden. I'll probably start throwing some of these, the pumpkin vines and squash vines that I got to take out. I'll throw those right on top of it. As that stuff breaks down, it'll just enrich everything, cause the breakdown, cause a decomposition, and hopefully we'll have some very rich beds and be able to produce some great products or great produce. But there's a lot of work ahead of me. I do have to get this started. I got the boys out here with me everywhere in the yard, so we're gonna get started. And on the bottom, we're starting to see some of those good things, those good critters that you want floating around in the bottom. And this is all underneath the weed barrier. All right, so that's 8 stumps. So that's about it for what I'm gonna put in for those. But I have some different odds and ends, different sizes. I'm gonna start filling in with that from the brush pile that's over here. Now I have a lot of different sizes I'm gonna be using, and I'm gonna try to use a good portion of this to start filling in the gaps. So this is going to end up taking just a few days because that pile is just one of the piles I want to start using. I have some brush and some other stuff over here on the refuge pile that I want to start using, some old plants. I might even take some of the larger plants and debris that I was pulling from the other garden as I start clearing that out, and I'll start filling that in here. I want to start getting all this set up so we can get our garlic in. So I'll probably work on it a little bit more tomorrow. The sun's going down, and I think it's gonna be it for today. So we'll be back out here tomorrow. All right, guys, we're back out here again today. Today we're going to clean up some of the pumpkin vines and squash vines, and we're gonna put that as a layer inside of our beds. So then once that's done, we'll start clearing out some of the brush and putting that in there as well. I got the boys out here with me, so let's get going. Clearing things out. I got 2 more apple gourds. Now before I put the vines on, I'm seeing there's still quite a few gaps I need to have filled, so I'm going to pull some of the sticks from the rubbish pile and fill in those gaps. All right, guys, so I've got the sod soil on top of the vines, the sticks, and the logs. So that's my first base. And if you look at it, The soil comes up to right about here. So I would say about 2/3 of this is just the stuff that's going to compost and break down. My vines and everything come up to about here in the logs. Now keep in mind, this is going to be probably about 30 inches once this is all done, because it does go down below the bed about 2 to 3 inches, because this is all stone and everything is sitting on top of the stone. Going all the way to the top, I'm going to stop about 2 to 3 inches from the top, and that gives me still about 10 inches of workable soil that I'm going to be using. Now the next step is to add a topsoil to the top layer on top of the sod soil, and then we're going to add an amended soil on top of that. Something I'm going to work some peat moss, maybe some fertilizer, some compost, something into it to help everything grow and make sure everything is full of nutrients and ready to start. So that's going to start here, and I'll probably be finishing that up tomorrow. And now for the amended soil on top. We're going to be planting directly into this soil, so we're going to enrich it. We are putting a layer of loose topsoil on top and then filling that in with a little bit of manure compost. That's going to add a lot of nitrogen and nutrients to the soil. And then we're going to top that off with a little bit of carbon so we don't have too much nitrogen in our soil, and we're going to be doing that by adding a peat hummus to the mix. We've added nutrient-rich composting material to the soil, so it's going to really enrich it. But we need to make it a little bit lighter, a little bit more airy, so we're going to be adding a little bit of peat moss to the mix. Now, to help with drainage and to also add a little bit more depth to the soil, we're going to be adding a little bit of perlite to the mix as well. All right, guys, so everything is set up. We're using the Hugelkultur method in the beds. So the base is going to be our logs with sticks on top. We use our pumpkin and squash vines on top of that. We use our topsoil on top of that. And then we did our amended soil. I'll leave the description of everything I used in the description below, and I explained it earlier. So then everything is set up at this point. So we're ready to start planting. I'm going to do all the beds very similarly. And I'm going to try to get them all set up to the amended portion, because it's the end of the season. I'm really only planting garlic in here, and since we just getting frost, it might be a little too close to the end, but I think it'll be fine. I'm going to get the garlic in today, which will be in the next video, but that's going to be it. And then I'm going to shred some leaves and do a leaf mulch, and I'll put that right over the top of the bed. And then next year, when I have everything settles and sinks, I'll come over the top of it, mix in that mulch and add a little bit of compost to the top of it, and a little bit more nutrients. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, comments, always leave them in the comment section or let me know. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.